2025 is already looking like it's going to be a great reading year for fantasy lovers. For today's video, I want to talk about my most anticipated releases that involve dragons, vampires, and much more. So hi and welcome back, my fellow fantasy book lovers, or if you're new here, hi and welcome. My name is Kathy and I'm a fantasy book lover from Belgium. For today's video, I want to go over some of the books that are releasing in January, February, and March that have already been announced that I am specifically looking forward to. And full disclosure, I have pre-ordered most of these already, so let's get into the list. The first one is a book that I actually purchased for my partner. He doesn't watch my videos, and if he does, well, it's already too late because I ordered the book for you. And it is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. This is releasing on January 7th. This book is said to be perfect for fans of dragons and epic quests, and it is being compared to Priory of the Orange Tree. So for me, that sets my expectations very, very high. Of course, also in January, there is the third part in the Fourth Wing series, or the Empyrean series, as it's officially called, and this book is called Onyx Storm. If you have been able to avoid Fourth Wing until now and you don't know what it's about, you are either very lucky or very not lucky, because I absolutely love this series. It's about a war college in which students who want to be dragon riders have to go through tasks to be able to become a dragon rider, and it's very deadly. And in these books we follow Violet Sorrengale, the daughter of Lilith Sorrengale, who's the commander of said war college, as she originally wants to be a scribe, but in book one she's being pushed by her mother to become a dragon rider. And that is what these books are all about and what is going on in the world. And we ended book 2 on an extreme cliffhanger as we did in book 1. And I just want to know more, and I want to get more into this series, and I'm very curious to see what happens next. Also in January, there is a new fantasy series that is starting, and the first book is called Lightfall by Croker. And this currently is being compared to Empire of the Vampire. And once you compare something to Empire of the Vampire and say that it's similar, that's enough information for me to want to read it. So I know this has werewolves and vampires in it, and it's supposed to be an epic fantasy, so I'm super excited. And this is one of the only books on this list that is not a continuation of a series that I've already started reading. In February, there's 2 books that I'm really looking forward to. First of all, there is the third part in the Emily Wilde series, which is going to be called Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. It is the third installment in the Emily Wilde series and releasing on February 11th. And I'm very curious to see if this is like a conclusion or if it will continue afterwards, because to me the story right now has taken on a flow that we want like a conclusion to the love story happening, and we haven't really gotten there yet. So I hope this might be a satisfying ending to a trilogy, or maybe that it sets up for even more books in this honestly incredible realm. Also releasing in February is the next part of the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. The 5th book in what is supposed to be a 7-book series in the end is called The Dark Mirror and will be released on February 25th. Now, I currently haven't read book 4 yet, so this is a very good incentive for me to by February already read book 4 and then be able to read book 5 as it comes out, because the Bone Season series is one of my favorite urban fantasy series. If you don't know about it yet, we follow Paige Mahurin, and she lives into this dystopian futuristic version of our world. So we have a London, we have a Paris, but it's all a little bit different from how we live in it. People with psychic powers are seen as something bad, as something evil, but of course Paige and a lot of other people have these powers and are actively using them to be able to make a living. But she's caught and she's captured, and that's where the interesting things start happening. I'm not gonna delve into more about the contents of these books, just know that this is a very futuristic, urban, almost sci-fi fantasy series, and for someone who doesn't love sci-fi themed series in books, this is so good, so I could highly recommend it to all of you. In March, there's a release of the third book in the Fallen God series by Hannah Kaner. This one is called Faithbreaker. The first book was God Killer, the second one was Sunbringer, and now we are getting the conclusion. Now, I'm really looking forward to concluding this series, and even if I sold my physical books of the first two ones, I still want to know what happens in book 3, so I will definitely be reading it. In this series, we have a world where there are a lot of gods. Bigger gods, smaller gods, to every minor detail. You might have a god for shoelaces that make sure that your shoelaces don't get untied, but you also have the gods of water and fire, etc. In this world, we have our god killer. She actually tries to kill as many of the especially lesser gods as possible, because once they have a shrine and they have people who adore them, they get more and more powerful, and then they can become a danger actually. So she kills gods, and then we have this girl who has a small god attached to her and they don't really know why. So in these books we follow both of their stories in this realm where gods are not always seen as a good thing, but also people keep worshipping gods for some reason. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this book concludes the trilogy. And then finally in March we have the second book to The Scarlet Veil, which is going to be called The Shadow Bride by Shelby Mahurin. And if you've read book 1, we know that it ends rather abruptly, without too many explanations on the last few chapters, is all I'm gonna say, because if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read The Scarlet Veil yet, this is a world where you have les chasseurs, and these hunters are actually hunting supernatural creatures, but the evil kind of supernatural creatures, because they do have witches and warlocks in their team as well. Our main character is actually engaged to the head of les chasseurs, and she is part of the team as well. But she's not being treated equally as everyone else. She's actually been excluded from a few investigations due to that. Now, one of her friends disappears strangely and she starts investigating it on her own, and she gets captured by vampires and taken away. And that's where the actual interesting parts of the story start happening. Now, do keep in mind that this is a YA series and not an adult fantasy series, so the romance lines in these books are not as explicit, as well as the horrific details in these books are a little bit toned down than what I'm used to seeing in some of my other epic fantasies or darker fantasy books. So this is my short list of releases that I'm very much looking forward to in 2025. I know there's a lot more books releasing, so feel free to let me know in a comment which one are you most looking forward to. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe so in the future we can fangirl over these together. Thank you so much for watching and happy reading. Bye!